Can you really get started investing and leave your job in 12 months, 1 year? Absolutely, you can. I did it, and anybody watching this or listening to this today can do it. That's what we're going to talk about today. I'd like to ask you guys to share our live stream. You can find the link in the comments. Share it today on your social media, if you will. Let's get as many people in here as we can. And try to help as many people get started as possible. By the end of the show today, I hope to show you guys how you can get out there and 12 months from today, not have to go to work, not need one of those stinking jobs. So we'll see you guys in about 30 seconds. Morning, guys. Welcome to Goat Talk. We're excited to have you here today. Say good morning to me. Let me know who's on here, where you are, and what kind of investing that you do. There's a special link that you have to go to if you're actually on Facebook. I believe it is facebook.com. StreamYard. Oh, go to StreamYard.com/Facebook. If you don't do that at least once while you're in a StreamYard program, Facebook won't tell us who you are and like to keep all their business to themselves. So go there and just click on a little link and it'll let us see your name when you say good morning. So we'd love to hear from you. We're going to talk today about how I left my job in 12 months. From the time that I bought my first real estate house. That was a few years ago, but there's no reason you guys can't still do it today. I'll tell you, investors today have it so much easier than we had when we got started. Nothing was online when we got started. Absolutely nothing. We would do stuff like drive for dollars all week, go down to the tax office, manually look up our list of addresses to find out who owned a property. And then we didn't have skip trace services like that. So we had to work really hard to get deals. You guys have everything at your fingertips. So you should be able to leave your job earlier than 12 months. But I really had a system for how this thing worked. When I got going, I had no idea real estate investing would even work. But I knew that I was desperate to leave my job and hoped that this would be the thing for me. And hey, guess what? It worked out. 25 years later, I still don't have a job. So it's great. Good morning, Matt. Good to see you. Kevin from Texas. We're glad you're here. There's Juan. Good to see you. Also from Texas. Joanna from St. Louis, man. We met Joanna at RubeCon, had a great conversation. We're going to have her on a show real soon and talk about her first sub-2 deal. I'm not going to give it away right now. I'm going to let her do it, man. But that was a killer. That was a killer. Super proud of Joanna. She did a great job. St. Louis girl, good morning from Denver. Okay. Glad to have you. Roy, good to see you from Wichita. All right. So if you guys haven't, we're going to ask you again. Joyce, good to see you from Bryant, Arkansas, down here in good old Arkansas. Share this on your social media, if you will. Share our live stream. I think we've got a link here somewhere in the comments. Invite your friends over, your investor friends. We'd love to have them join us this morning. And we're going to talk about how I got started. And if you, as always, if you have any questions about what I did to get started, about the topic today, or just about a deal that you're doing, or just general creative real estate, pop that thing in here. We would love to answer those for you in our Q&A segment here at the end. Hey, Amanda. Good to see you from Utah. Dana's here from Texas. Man, we got a crowd here this morning. All right, so fantastic. Okay, so how did I get started in investing? If you guys have been around for any period of time, if you've watched any of our videos or you've heard my story, without getting too deep into the far back part of it, Guys, I quit school in the ninth grade. Okay. You may say that's probably not uncommon in the South, and it may not be. But I had, a bad home situation. I quit school in the ninth grade. I struck out on my own at 15 and worked two, three minimum wage jobs to survive. Okay. That tells you a couple of things. Number one, formal education. I don't have a ton of it. And it may show, and if it does, that's okay. But I made it. Okay, I survived. Obviously, I'm still here, 45 years later. Uh, but my point in sharing that with you is that I'm fairly certain, I've a lot of you guys on here I've had conversations with. I know you guys have, completed high school, have college degrees. If you're thinking it's a lack of education, I'm here to tell you it's not. That won't prevent you from getting started in real estate. There's a lot more to it than that. But I left home at 15, fell into the real estate, fell into the restaurant business because that's what a lot of people do. Restaurants are always hiring. It's hard work. It's long hours. And because I showed up for work every day, because I worked when I was at work, I moved up the ranks very quickly. And some 20 years later, I found myself as director of operations for multiple states, for a fast food franchise. And I was making pretty good money. I made 60, 70 grand a year. And this was in 1999 in Georgia. That was good money. And while I didn't particularly enjoy what I did because it required a lot of travel, it required a lot of hours away from my family, there's just no way I could have transitioned into another field and made the same money. I'd been in this field for 20 years, and I was stuck. I didn't know what to do. But at the time, I had two small children. I think actually in 1999 they were 8 and 5. And I missed every soccer game. I missed a lot of school functions. I wasn't home a lot. I worked 60, 70 hours a week. And I was really sad about missing all of these things. And I thought there's got to be something better. I'm 35 years old. I can't see myself standing on my feet for 60, 70 hours a week, working in a restaurant environment until retirement. What can I do? And back during those days, before social media, before everything was, 10,000 ads were on Facebook, and YouTube and TikTok and everywhere else, it was late night TV. And that's where the real estate gurus of the day had their infomercials. And I don't know if any of you guys, most of you guys probably aren't old enough to remember this, but there was one particular guy, and his name was Carlton Sheets. And he was an older guy at the time. And he had late night infomercials, and it was always down in Florida with the palm trees and everything and the blue water. And he was talking about buying real estate, no money down, and how you can do it. Anyone can do it. And he would bring people on to talk about, I bought this house and this house and this house, and I bought them all, no money down. And they didn't look particularly bright. They didn't look like they were super intelligent people, most of them for the most part. And I thought, gee, if those people can do it, I can probably do it too. Now, I had watched Carlton Sheets infomercials for years. But on this one particular night at 2 a.m, I was still up. I was frustrated with my life and desperate to do something different. Yeah, Matt says, yeah, I remember Carlton Sheets. Matt, I didn't know you were that old. I thought you were a young fella. Marco Rebel. Yeah, I've heard of that guy. I actually saw him on a website, but never saw an infomercial. But yeah, Carlton Sheets. So, I reached over, picked up the phone, and spent the money. And I think it was $300 for the course. And of course, the call center upsells you. You need to buy buying houses in foreclosure, working with partners. So they upsold me some stuff. And I think by the time I was finished, I spent $700 or $800. And that was a lot of money for me, because I'll tell you, I made good money, but I lived like 95% of Americans lived. My wife and I, we didn't live extravagantly. We bought a new car every 3 or 4 years. And I drove an older vehicle, that I traveled in for business. We lived in an average home. I think at the time that we bought that house, we qualified. Let's just say we qualified for 150,000, and of course the agent showed us one for 165 because we can push it just a little bit more. So we were tapped out, man. We spent everything we made raising two kids, and at Christmas we charged up Christmas and paid it off with the tax refund. I know some of you people can relate to that. But that's how we lived. We spent what we made. We didn't save money for retirement because there was no money to save for retirement. It cost what we made to live. But I bought that Carlton Sheets course, and I remember the day that it arrived. UPS brought the box, and they left it at the front door, and I grabbed it and opened it up, and I sat down on the couch in my living room and opened the first manual. There were like 4 manuals, and I took the cellophane off the first one and I opened it up and I started reading. And anyone here that's ever had a Carlton Sheets course, and I'll tell you, you can go to eBay and buy them for $5. There's a million of them on there for sale. Some of them are brand new, still in the package, I'm sure. And a lot of that information is still very relevant. Creative finance changes somewhat, but not a whole bunch. A Carlton Sheets course is about 20 miles wide and 1 inch deep. With regard to, he exposes you to just about every different type of deal you can do on the planet, but he doesn't give you a ton of detail on any of them. But I didn't know any better. All I knew is this guy says I can buy houses with no money down. And what he recommended, his biggest recommendation at the time was that you cold call people that have houses listed for sale in the newspaper. Remember, back then we didn't have Zillow. Okay. FSBOs listed houses in the newspaper. They put a FSBO sign in their front yard. That's what they did. That's the way it worked. So guess what I did? On lunch breaks, any free time I had, I was calling FSBOs. And I'm going to tell you something. Calling FSBOs, people that have paid significant money to put ads in the newspaper to sell their house, man, that is a tough racket. And I got cussed out more times than I can tell you. I had this one fella actually said, listen, the Carlton Sheets course doesn't work. Stop doing this. It's not going to help you. But eventually I found someone that had a house for sale. They lived out of state. Their daughter was handling it for them. They had tenants in there. They were having problems, and they agreed to let me come out and look at the house and talk to me. Now, they weren't open to anything creative, but I had at the time met a small local banker and I actually went in to see him. I think I had my Carlton Sheets course under my arm, and I was explaining to him how I was going to be a real estate investor. And he said, sure, we'll finance some of these houses for you. But the guy wanted me to put money down, and I'm trying to figure out how I can do this without any money down. And because Carlton Sheets said I didn't need any money. So this banker told me I needed $5,000 down and they would finance the rest of the house. And I had this great, what I thought was super creative idea. Well, what if instead of putting $5,000 down, I deposit $5,000 in your bank as a CD? And he scratched his head for a minute. He was an older guy, and he said, that might work. So what did I do? I took $5,000 off of a credit card advance. I took one of those credit card cash advance checks, got $5,000, took it down there to the bank, put a CD and let them hold it as collateral. And I bought that house. Now, by the time I got tax prorations and other things at closing, I bought a house and I left with a check for about $800, man. I thought I was a high roller. Okay. But I bought my first house with nothing down, and we went in and cleaned it up a little bit, and we sold it on a lease option. So that's how I bought my very first house with no money down. And I thought it was a pretty creative deal. So the main thing I want you to know is that I read Carlton Sheets' course. I opened every binder. I went through every inch of it. I drove a lot. Cassette tapes. That's what came with this course. Every minute that I was in my car driving for work, I was listening to cassette tapes over and over and over until I had these techniques down and I understood them forwards and backwards. So it was just repetition and actual doing. All of my free time was spent calling sellers, talking to people, trying to buy a house. And guess what? It didn't take me but 30 days to buy the first house. The next month, I bought a second house. Then I bought a third house. And I said, whoa, wait a minute. This stuff might actually work. I need to step back for a second and think about what's going on. I need a plan. Okay, so that's what I did. I formulated a plan and said, okay, I want to leave my job in 12 months. How can I do this? How can I continue to work 60 or 70 hours a week? And what I found was that I had to give up some things that I had done in the past. TV, like I said, we didn't have social media, so scrolling on Facebook wasn't a thing. But when I would get home from working, I would spend time watching TV. I watched a video recently that said the average American watches 37 hours of TV a week. Now, I don't know if that's true. That sounds like a lot of TV, and that's the average. Some people stay home and they watch TV all day, and some people watch in the evening. But I do know that the most expensive subscription that any of you have right now is Netflix. I know that for a fact because Netflix and the time that you spend in front of the TV watching, whether it's what I call mindless TV, which are comedy shows or things that don't offer you anything, no real lessons, nothing to learn, or you're watching movies, or you're watching documentaries, or whatever you're doing. If you're not a full-time real estate investor, if you aren't financially secure, if you aren't where you want to be, that time needs to be spent getting there. Okay. And I'm also a big believer in the saying that if you'll do for a short time what others won't, you can do for the rest of your life what others can't. So what I did was I gave up television. Um, I gave up some of the limited family time that I had. I knew it was painful at the time, but I also knew that there was a light at the end of the tunnel. I spent my free time on the internet. We had chat rooms and news groups at the time. We didn't have Facebook and Twitter and those things. So we would get in these groups and talk to other people who wanted to be investors or who were investors. What about this technique? How does it work? What do you do? Get on the phone with them. Talk about what documents to use. All the things we do today, we just did it in a different format. And I continued with my learning. So I put together a plan on how I could leave my job in 12 months. And this is really just a breakdown of how that worked. Number one, I continued to invest in my education. And while that may sound a little bit self-serving to some people here, most all of you here know we sell courses and we sell education. But there was a time when I didn't, and I was learning, and I continued to invest in my education. I can't tell you the number of people that I know who have $50,000 in student loan debt because of a degree they have in marketing or whatever it may be. And they may have a job making $50,000 a year, but they think spending $500 or $1,000 for a real estate course is ridiculous. When that course can teach them how to go out and do a deal and make 50,000 or more in one time. So I've had that conversation numerous times with different people. But investing in your education, I bought my first 2 or 3 houses with a Carlton Sheets course, and then I wanted to learn more. I wanted new techniques. I didn't want to continue to use small local banks. My next step was a sandwich lease option course that I bought at the time from a good friend of mine today, Bill Bronchick, on how to do sandwich lease options. And we did a few of those. And again, those are no money down deals. But then we discovered subject to, man. And when we discovered that, things really took off. But I continued to invest in my education. I went to events. I went to seminars. If it was a new technique I wanted to learn, I invested in that course from a quality, reputable trainer. That's another thing. You have to find someone that you can relate to that really resonates with you, somebody that you enjoy listening to. And there are a lot of people out there now. Everybody's a teacher now. But do these people really do what they teach, or are they influencers? Is that their thing? So that's really important that you know that. Uh, so investing in my education, continuing to do that was really important. The second thing that I did required a conference with my family. And this was a hard sell for several different reasons, but reducing our lifestyle expenses. Okay. Now we owned a home and we paid a mortgage for that every single month. What I knew though was this: if I work 60 or 70 hours at a job and I only have physically 20 hours a week that I can devote to real estate, because you've got to sleep at some point. Uh, the sooner I can leave my job, the faster the trajectory is going to take off on my successful investing. What can I do? What things can I eliminate cost wise so my cash flow will let me leave my job sooner? So, since TV was one of the things that I had decided to give up, we gave up cable TV. We sold our house. We moved into a modest apartment. We didn't buy a new car that year. We waited. And we really cut expenses. We had dinner more often at home and went out less. We cut our expenses significantly. And I made a chart that I had in my office where I had an expense line, and every time we cut an expense, of course, that line went down. And every time we bought a new house and our cash flow increased, that line went up. And I knew that when those lines crossed, we would actually have financial freedom. Okay. So it was something everybody could take part in, everybody could visualize that we were moving in a positive direction and there was a light there at the end of the tunnel. So reducing expenses. And believe me, I've had conversations with people before, uh, and they just absolutely refuse to reduce expenses. Listen, I drive this Escalade uh, because I make a certain amount of money and I deserve to drive it. Okay. And if you feel that way, that's fine. But just know that your path to freedom, what I call it, is going to probably take a little bit longer. The more money you make now and spend it all, if you don't reduce your expenses, the longer it's going to take you for real estate to cover your expenses, the longer it's going to take for you to be able to say goodbye to your job, especially if you're accumulating properties and trying to grow your cash flow. Okay. The next step was taking action every single day. There's something every single day that you need to do toward your real estate investing, whether that's talking to sellers, whether that's learning a new technique. Today, that may be watching YouTube videos or be taking part in a Facebook group where there's a discussion. I'm telling you, there are 10,000, it seems like there are 10,000 Facebook Lives or videos, new ones every single day now. There's so many webinars today on real estate. There's no way you could even attend all of them. But again, that goes back to finding a reputable person that you can follow. You can follow their instructions and do what they say. Don't just watch these things. Take notes and choose something out of what you learned to actually implement into your routine, the following day. The next thing was talking to sellers. So many investors that I meet try to do anything they can to avoid having a conversation with a seller, whether that's texting, whether it's ringless voicemails, whether it's just emails, whether it's Loom videos. And I'm not saying there's not a place for those things, but a real conversation with somebody that has a problem, really a personal approach to it, whether that's door knocking, whether that is even a phone call, is going to get you so much further. I got to tell you, I get a text almost every day, at least one, from cold texting people that see a property that we have for sale on Zillow almost every single day. Hey, I saw your house for sale. Would you mind leasing it to me for 24 months and then I'll buy it? I mean, these people, we had a conversation with a lady a couple of weeks ago that no matter what we said, she came back with some kind of response, and in a lot of cases, a really snarky response. But there's no way that I would deal with this person. And I told Jody, I said, I understand now why so many sellers we speak to hate real estate investors, because their contacts that they have with them are just so negative. So you want to make sure that you're getting out there, you're trying to get face to face across the kitchen table from as many sellers as possible and having a conversation that really matters. Um, the next thing is constant marketing. Everyone that you meet needs to know that Matt or James or Ryan buys houses. And that doesn't matter if it's a polo shirt with "We Buy Houses." In the past, I didn't go anywhere without a shirt or a baseball cap that said "We Buy Houses." I had magnetics on my car. And listen, if you're one of those people that say, "Oh man, I don't want to have magnetics on my car, it's embarrassing," or whatever, you will get over that embarrassment the first house you buy and make 50 grand. I promise you, you will get over that embarrassment. Business cards, they're so inexpensive. Every person you shake hands with and you meet, when they take their hand back, it needs to have a business card in it. Let everyone that you do know what you do. And I'll tell you, the day that I realized that I had been successful in letting people know what I do, I was in Home Depot looking for something for a house, and I heard two guys. One of them said, "Hey, that's the house guy. He buys houses." And I didn't know who these people were, but I'd been around enough at that point for people to know that I was the house guy. Um, but I'll tell you, consistency in what you do is going to really go a lot further. Now, we've changed a lot in our business over the years. We've been buying houses now for 25 years. I bought my first house in August of 1999. We've changed a lot of things. The primary thing we teach our students today is something that we call the 12 house blueprint. If you would like to get a copy of the 12 house blueprint, a very basic framework of how it works, I think we've got a link here that we can show you where you can get out and get that. And that should pop up here in just a minute. But the 12 house blueprint explains to you how you can be financially free and make $500,000 or more within 36 months buying just one house a month. So you guys can go check that out. I think my producer is going to pop that up here in just a minute. It's totally free. Go download it, take a look at it. As far as tools to use, like I said, back in the day when we got started, there weren't a whole lot of tools to choose from. Today, I think that a real estate investor really only has to have two tools in their business. And they're just everyday work. One is a CRM. You're going to talk to, let's say that you market 10 different ways and you talk to 100 sellers a month. You're doing a great job at marketing. Of those 100 people that you talk to every month, a full 90% of them aren't going to be ready or capable of working with you today. Either they're not going to be willing to sell on your terms or at your price, or for some reason, they're just not going to be ready today. Those people need to go into a follow-up campaign that has little to no involvement from you. We call those workflows. They'll get a random text. "Hi, this is William. We talked a couple of weeks ago about your house. Just checking back in with you to see how things are going. Is there anything that I can help with?" And they'll get that random text or email every few weeks, and it phases out over time. But we use a CRM that you guys can check out if you'd like. You can go to sub2crm.com. It's very affordable. It's less than $100 a month, and it's a follow-up campaign that will keep you in touch with every seller that you've ever spoken with. Now, occasionally someone will come back to you and they will have changed their mind. I think it's Ron LeGrand that says all sellers' motivation changes with time and circumstance. I think that's where I heard that. And that is absolutely true. In fact, the house I'm sitting in right now, I have this studio in right now, was bought from a follow-up campaign. A gentleman called me Actually, he downloaded a foreclosure report, and I called him after he did it, and he wanted to sell his house, but he wanted $50,000 for his equity. And at the time, I told him that just wouldn't work for us. It wouldn't fit. It wouldn't allow us to make a profit, and we just couldn't do it. And so we put him in a follow-up campaign, and about 4 months later, he called and said, "Listen, I can't afford this house anymore. I've got to get out of it. I really need your help." And we wound up writing him a check for $12,000 and taking over payments on his 3% loan. So that was over the course of 4 months. So everything really worked out well for us on that one. So a CRM is really important. The second thing I would recommend for you to use in your business is some kind of data program. And, there are several out there. Our preference is PropStream. That's what we use. You can get a free trial on PropStream at sub2data.com. But when I talk to a seller on the phone, if a seller calls me today, I can guarantee you during the conversation, I know how much they paid for the house, when they bought it, what their interest rate is, how much their payment is. I have all of that information. I know if this deal is a potential deal. So you guys can go to Sub2 Data. We recommend PropStream. There are others out there, and I'm not going to say one is necessarily better than the other, but PropStream was the first. I've had PropStream now for several years, and we use it almost every single day. So you guys go check that out if you'd like to take a look. Like I said, 7-day free trial, won't cost you a penny. Run through it, see what you think about it, and if you like it, then it's something that can help you with your business. But the keys to this thing, and someone did ask a question here earlier. Let me see if I can find this question. They said, okay, it was Juan. He said, didn't you buy a hoarder house and found an unopened Carlton Sheets box in the home? Juan, I have probably bought a dozen houses and found a Carlton Sheets course in that house. And without fail, I swear to you, this is the absolute truth. Without fail, the first manual is open and the rest are still in plastic. They had the keys to their problem right there in front of, but we did buy a hoarder house right here in Arkansas. First house we bought when we got to Arkansas that had a Carlton Sheets course. Jody even made a little video of it. The box was sitting right there on top of all the other stuff, the Carlton Sheets course box. It was amazing. But yes, we did, absolutely. And have bought several houses that had that same circumstance. So that is the truth. And Carlton Sheets, like I said, you can go to eBay right now and buy a complete Carlton Sheets course for $5. And it's what got us started. But the biggest keys that I can tell you, that made all of these things possible for me, was that by the end of the 12 months, I calculated what I needed based on my average cash flow, and I knew that I needed to buy about 20 houses that year. At the time I did this, I'd already bought 3 or 4, so I had to buy another 16 or 17 houses. At the end of that year, exactly 1 year later, I left my job and haven't had a job since. And it just requires a little planning. It requires consistency on your part and a dedication to doing what it takes to get things done. Had we stayed in our home, could I still have gone full time? Yes, I could have, but it probably would have taken me 2 years to do it. But I guarantee you this, if you are working right now, if you go full time and you're investing, and I don't know if there's anybody here that's gone through this already, but I'm sure they will second me on this. Once you quit your job and you can devote full time to your investing, you're going to see things improve dramatically very, very quickly. It was really funny, the whole process. Friends that we had, people that we knew, people at church. I would drive up in my old Chevy Blazer where the lining on the inside roof was peeling off because I wouldn't buy a new car because we just weren't going to put that money out there for that sort of thing. I would drive up there to pick up my youngest from the preschool program he was in, and the girl that would put him in the car would would look at my car with this look on her face like, oh my gosh, this is just horrible. And people would act strange. And I know, that's a big problem for a lot of new investors. I don't want people to know what I'm doing. What if I fail? I'll be embarrassed. They'll make fun of me. Everybody tells me it won't work. And we dealt with some of that too. But what we found was that after I went full time, about a year after I went full time, we bought a much nicer home than we'd had before, and we're able to travel and do a lot of things that we couldn't do before. And that's when these same people start saying, now, what is it that you're doing? Because now they're interested. Now they want to know. And then every time there's a gathering, every time there's some kind of get together or a party or something, there's a circle of people around you asking you a lot of questions. How were you able to do this? I'm so envious of you. You took 2 months off and went on an RV trip with your family and things like that. So things really seem to change when that sort of thing happens. So that's how we got started, and how I went full time in 12 months. Again, you should grab that. I don't know if we've shared that link or not yet for the 12 house blueprint. The 12 house blueprint will give you the play by play on how to buy one house a month for 12 months. At the end of the first year, you can have cash flow of over $6,000 a month. And, the median income right now in the United States is around 70,000. So that tells me most people can probably live on 70,000 a year. If you think you can, the 12 house blueprint might be something that you want to check out. But by the end of the third year, and math don't lie, so go check it out, you can be making over $500,000 a year. And I think it's safe to say most people here can make it on $500,000 a year. So let's see if we've got any questions. We'll take those. Let's see. How do you figure out the people who do from the people who just teach? Matt, that's an interesting question. I can just give you my opinion on that right now. I've been on the other side of the curtain for quite some time. So I know a lot about a lot of people that teach. I generally don't talk about that though, because that doesn't look good on you well, first of all, most people think if you speak negatively of someone, it's self-serving. So it's best just not to do it. But I'll tell you this, and it's funny, I was having this conversation with our assistant this morning. What you'll find most of the time is people that are overly flashy with their success, that like to brag a lot about what they have and the things they have. They're the most suspect for you. I'll tell you that. And I was talking to my assistant this morning, and we were talking about one of the classic symbols of I've made it is a Lambo. Okay. And I said, I could go out today probably and just write a check for something like that. But why would I do that? That's crazy. We drive a Honda CRV, or, well, hell, I don't even know what it is. But it's car Jody had when we met. We have one car. I mean, there's two of us. We have one car. We don't have a need for two. We do everything together. But being overly flashy, look at me, I've got this. I think there was a guy, an infomercial guy around the same time that Carlton Sheets was around. I think his name was Tom Vu. I don't know. I never really followed him or paid much attention to him, but he was always on a yacht when he was doing that stuff. And I think ultimately he went to jail for fraud or something. I can't remember, but that's not always an indicator, but people that are just super, super flashy like that are always suspect to me. I would look for somebody that's been around for a long time, really. That's a good indicator. People that have a very good reputation. People that other people that have been around for a long time that have a good reputation speak highly of. Those are good indicators. What are their success rates? I mean, you'd be surprised. There are a lot of teachers, trainers, gurus, whatever, that look like they have a huge following, but they actually, there's one in particular I can think of that buys old Facebook profiles. If you do a search for this, you'd be amazed at what you can do on the internet. They buy old Facebook profiles that aren't used anymore and use those fake profiles to comment on stuff in their groups in a positive manner. So and so is so great. I've learned so much, blah, blah, blah. And it's an old Facebook profile that hasn't been used in 10 years, but they buy these by the hundreds and they do that. And they also hire people to do reviews for them on places like Trustpilot and such. So yeah, it's tough out there, man. You really have to have some discernment, but look for somebody that's been around for a while, that's been through a few cycles, and then look for the people that they hang out with. Do they hang out with other reputable people? Do they promote each other's products all the time? A lot of the less reputable people do a lot of cross promotion and things like that a lot of times. So that's not an absolute, but there's some signs. Okay. So any other questions? Let's see. Juan said, my current CRM right now is just tracking things on a spreadsheet. It's tough. Are there any specific systems you recommend to make life easier? Juan, the current one we're using, you can find at Sub2 CRM. That's the one that we're using right now. We've tried a couple of different ones. I've yet to find one that's perfect. You just want to get the one that's the easiest possible one for you to use. That's affordable, because there's some out there that are very expensive. Something that will let you follow up with sellers that aren't ready to deal with you right now. I guarantee you, if you talk to Joe today and he says, oh no, I have to have full price and all cash. And you say, hey Joe, I get it. I understand. Everybody, we're not the answer for everybody. Do you mind if I just stay in touch with you, see how things are going, see if there's any way I can help? I'm always glad to be a resource. Virtually 100% of these people will say, sure, no problem. And you plug them into that system, and they're going to hear from Juan every so often, and they're going to think you just thought about them and stopped and texted them, but it's automated. Sub2 CRM, I think they're still offering a free trial. Check those out. That's the least expensive, most simple one we've found so far. Like I said, I haven't found a perfect one yet, but that's the one I would recommend at this point right now. Okay. Other questions? Do you use REI Black Book and Finish Green together? Joanna, no, I don't. There's no need to use both of those programs. I would say choose one. I've used both. Okay. And they both have their pros and cons. But really what it comes down to for me, is just simply how easy it is to use. Either one of those would work for you. But you just compare, price wise and what they do and what you need. Some CRMs have so many bells and whistles that you'll never use, and there's no sense in paying for that if you're just not going to use it. You can buy, you can be as simple as buying dedicated phone numbers from Twilio and have them forwarded to your cell phone. That's not going to give you the workflows that you want. Some people recommend Podio. I tried to work with Podio once, and I thought I was going to lose my mind. So that's not something I recommend. Get a ready to go system. People that have good customer service, like I said, either one of the ones you mentioned would probably work well for you. Hey, Ryan, good to see you here. You're still hanging out this morning. James said, I remember my dad having the Carlton Sheets cassettes. I don't think he ever put it into practice. And most people don't, James. I'll tell you, being on the teaching side of things, as well as being an investor, we know statistically, this is crazy, but this number has not changed in the 20 years I've been teaching. 97% of people who buy a course. Now that's people that actually write a check. Okay. 97% of people who actually purchase education will never buy a house. That doesn't take into account all the people that consume a lot of YouTube stuff and never bust out the credit card. So the percentage would be much higher, people that want to be an investor, but 97% of people who buy a course will never do anything. Because they're afraid of being embarrassed. Friends and family talk them out of it. They're afraid to talk to sellers, whatever the case may be. That's really sad because I'm telling you, I've been doing this. I've been teaching for over 20 years. And honestly, I can count on one hand the number of people that I've met that I said to myself, I don't know if they can do it or not. Most people can do this. It's really not complicated. There is a learning curve and it does involve work. And that word scares a lot of people too. It's supposed to be super easy. And a lot of people like to make it sound that way. Listen, you can be a millionaire tomorrow. Well, okay. I mean, lightning strikes occasionally. You might come out of the gate and do $1 million deal, your first deal. I would say I wouldn't count on that. I go buy a lottery ticket. I think your chances are better with that. Let's see. What happens when you buy sub 2? It happens to get call due, but you've sold it on owner finance. What kind of liability do you face? Well, Alex, if you sell it the way we do, your liability is minimal. And the reason for that is that's one of the reasons that we sell on a land contract. When we sell a house on a land contract, our buyer gets full rights of ownership, tax deductions, write-offs, the whole 9 yards, but we keep legal title. And that frees us up for a lot of things. Let's say that the loan gets called due, okay, which I will, in disclosure, tell you I've been doing this 25 years. It's never happened to me. If the loan got called due, I could try all of my different methods of solving the problem. I could talk to the lender. I could formally assume it. I could do all kinds of things. But the bottom line is holding legal title, I can go refinance that property if I need to because I am the owner of record. Now, if I sold that property on a wrap on owner finance, then that property's in my buyer's name. Can I refinance a house that's not in my name? No, that would be a problem for me. So if you get into a situation with a due on sale that you can't solve that problem and that house got foreclosed on, would you face some liability? Possibly. Could your buyer sue you? Man, I don't know you, Alex, but I could sue you tomorrow for anything. Now, you would have to prove your innocence in the case, but that's the way things are in the United States. Our buyers sign a disclosure that states there's underlying mortgage on the property. They know that's there. They understand that there's some risk involved in that. But there are a lot of ways you can take care of business. So sell it on a land contract and you still stay in total control of handling any due on sale issues. That's my recommendation to you. Now, if you're in Texas, that's going to be difficult, but in most other states, it's not going to be. So I hope that answers that question. Okay. Let's see. I don't know if we have anything else. Ryan says, William teaches. Hey, thanks, buddy. I appreciate that. Ryan's one of our Max students, and glad to have you. We're going to see you guys in 4 weeks from tomorrow. We have our next Maxtermind. We're going to be in Branson, hanging out at this awesome place. Hot tubs, indoor pool, indoor lazy river. Man, we're going to have a great time down there. That's 4 weeks from tomorrow, so we're looking forward to it. Okay, Janina has a question, so let us have it. We want to hear about it. And anybody else that's got a question? Hey, Vincent, good to see you here. Vincent's down in Houston. We're always glad to have him on. Let's see. What is the link for the blueprint? So let's share that again for everybody. So they will have that okay, let's see. How does this affect the seller's debt to income when it comes time for them to purchase? If what you're saying is if I buy Tom's house subject to, and then he tries to buy a house later, how will that affect his debt to income? Occasionally you'll get that question from a seller, Janina, and I hope I'm saying that right. If I'm not, let me know. And my answer to them is always the same. Tom, I can't guarantee you that you're going to be able to buy a house next year. Okay. That's going to depend on a few things. Some of those are going to be your credit score, your income, how long you've been on your job. And I got no control over that. Otherwise, here's what I do know. At a minimum, you will get a 75% credit towards your DTI, the same that you would get if you rented this house. And after a year, it's quite possible that they would just wash it if we can show proof that we've been making the payments. Not all lenders will do that. Okay, some will, some won't. But we will help you in any way that we can by proving that we bought the house from you to your new lender, proving that we've been making the payments on time every month for however many months or years this has been going on. We'll be glad to provide all of that stuff for you. The truth is, it's going to depend on the seller, and it's going to depend on the lender that they choose. And we'll also try to help you find more favorable lenders that will work with people in these situations. We know some mortgage brokers who can direct you to lenders that are more friendly in situations like this. But that's really all you can do is just tell them the truth. You can't guarantee them anything. We don't know what's going to happen in the economy. We don't know what's going to happen with interest rates, and I can't control my seller's credit score and his job income. So that's the thing there. We want to make it very clear. Most of the people that we're purchasing from are going to be in some kind of financial trouble, and they're not going to be looking to buy a house real soon. Now, we had an exception a few months ago. We had a lady that we bought a house from that was moving to Little Rock, and she was already pre-qualified to buy her new home. And we directed her to a lender that was able to let her go ahead and purchase her new home. And then we took her existing home subject to. So she had an 800 credit score and had a good income, but she was okay with it. We rehabbed that house and we sold it. So we only held that house for about 4 months. There was just a lot of equity in it, and it just needed some fix up. So every situation is going to be different. I hope that helps. Okay. Awesome. Okay, guys. So hope this helps. Know this. If you want to leave your job in 12 months, most of you would absolutely be able to do it. Now, if you make $250,000 a year and you're buying houses for cash flow purposes, it may take you a little longer. I don't know. It depends on how good a cash flow you get on your properties. But know this, it will take some effort. There will be some pain during the process, most likely. But again, just remember, and this is absolutely true, if you will do for a short time what others won't, you can do for the rest of your life what others can't. I've lived it. I've known a lot of people that have. It's just, it's just, are you willing to pay the price? I'm telling you this, though, if you do nothing, next year will come anyway. A year from today, we're April the 9th, 2024. Where will you be a year from today? Will you be job free, a full-time investor, making deals, making money, in control of your destiny, or will you still be working at your job? You just have to decide, make the decision what you want to do. I think James had a question. Is all of your information in your 3-part sub-2 guide, everything? I'll tell you this, James, everything that you need to know to go out and start buying houses today, along with the paperwork, is included in the sub-2 guidebook. And I think we've got a link to that we can share with you where you can get it. Now, I will tell you this. A lot of people won't tell you. I'll tell you because I do teach. Any course that you buy from anybody, I don't know what state you're in, James, any course that you buy, if you're not in the state where the person wrote it and does deals, you need to have the forms run by a local attorney to make sure everything is state approved. States are different. For example, when we lived in Colorado, they have foreclosure protection laws. We had to have specific language in our contract, and we also had to give them 3-day right of rescission. Some states don't require that. So always have the forms that you're going to give your seller looked at by a local attorney. Go ahead and pay that $300 or whatever. If you know an attorney, great. Have them take a look at it and see what they think. But you always have to do that. But as far as the information you need step by step, from how to set up your office, the documents you need, the things you need to do, Everything is included in our course. Guarantee that. So hope that helps. Okay, so hope this helps today. Hope you guys know you can get out there. You can absolutely be job free in 12 months or less. I've done it. If I can do it, anyone here can do it. Appreciate all you guys hanging out with us today. We do this almost every Tuesday. And so until next week, you guys get out there, talk to some sellers, buy some houses. We'll see y'all next Tuesday.